There's a number in your bank account right now. Maybe you know it exactly, maybe you're afraid to look, that determines which of three stages you're trapped in. And here's what keeps me up at night. 78% of Americans will die without ever leaving stage 1. Not because they're lazy, not because they're stupid, but because no one ever showed them the actual numbers. Today, that changes. Look, I'm tired of financial advice that sounds like it was written by someone who's never had to choose between paying rent and fixing their car. Just save 20% of your income. Cool. With what money? Invest early. Great. Should I invest my anxiety or my negative bank balance? Build multiple streams of income. My guy, I'm barely keeping one stream from drowning me. Here's what I'm going to do differently. I'm going to give you the exact dollar amounts for each stage of financial freedom. Not vibes, not motivation, not it depends on your lifestyle. Actual numbers. Ranges, yes, because someone in rural Ohio has different costs than someone in San Francisco, but real targets you can screenshot, tape to your mirror, and obsess over. I spent 3 years going from checking my bank account with one eye closed to checking it out of curiosity, not fear, and I tracked everything, the numbers, the mindset shifts, the traps that almost swallowed me whole. So let's get into it. Stage 1, survival. Stage 2, stability. Stage 3, abundance. Where are you right now? Be honest, no one's watching. Stage 1, survival. You know you're in survival when your relationship with money is physical. I mean that literally. Your chest tightens when you check your account. You feel a little nauseous on the 14th of the month because rent is due on the 1st and you're already doing math. You've memorized which bills can be paid late without a fee and which ones will wreck you. Survival is when an unexpected $400 expense, a car repair, a medical bill, an emergency flight, isn't an inconvenience, it's a crisis. And here's a stat that should make you feel less alone. The Federal Reserve found that 37% of Americans cannot cover a $400 emergency without borrowing money or selling something. You're not bad with money, you're in survival, and those are two very different things. The numbers. So what does survival actually look like in dollars? You're in survival if your savings account has less than $2,000 or is functionally zero. You have less than 1 month of expenses liquid and accessible. Your debt-to-income ratio is above 40%, meaning 40% or more of your income goes to debt payments. You're earning roughly $40,000 a year in a medium cost of living area, adjust up for expensive cities, $55K in New York, $60K in San Francisco. But here's what nobody tells you. Survival isn't just about income, it's about the gap between what comes in and what has to go out. Someone making $120,000 a year can be in survival. I've seen it. Lifestyle bloat, car payments, credit card minimums, a mortgage that's 45% of their take-home. They look successful. They feel like they're drowning.
Meet Marcus. Marcus is 29. Makes $52,000 a year as a project coordinator. On paper, decent job. Good title. His parents are proud. But here's his reality. $1,400 a month rent, roommate situation, still brutal, $380 monthly car payment, he needed a reliable car for work, $220 minimum on credit cards, mostly from a period of unemployment 2 years ago that he's never recovered from, $290 monthly student loans. After taxes, insurance, gas, food, and his phone bill, Marcus has roughly $180 left over each month. One flat tire, one wedding invitation, one dental emergency, and that $180 becomes a cash advance. Marcus isn't lazy. Marcus isn't dumb. Marcus is in survival, and the system is designed to keep him there. Here's what keeps people stuck in stage 1. Trap number 1, the minimum payment illusion. Credit card companies want you to pay minimums forever. That $4,000 balance at 22% APR, paying $100 a month means you'll pay over $6,000 total, and it'll take 5 years. They're not helping you. They're farming you. Trap number 2, identity-level beliefs. I'm just not good with money. My family was never wealthy. I'm not a numbers person. These aren't facts. They're stories you've been told so many times they feel like bones. But they're not bones. They're clothes. You can take them off. Trap number 3, lifestyle creep at the worst time. Get a raise, new expense magically appears. Tax refund, it's already spent emotionally before it hits your account. Survival convinces you that any extra money is catch-up money or treat-yourself money. It never becomes escape money. How do you escape survival? 2 moves. Move number 1, create a $1,000 oh shit fund before you do anything else. Not retirement, not investments, not extra debt payments. $1,000 in a separate savings account that you don't touch unless the world is ending. This isn't about the money, it's about breaking the cycle of crisis. Because every crisis that doesn't destroy you builds a tiny bit of confidence. And right now, you need that more than compound interest. Move number 2, identify your highest interest debt and attack it with every extra dollar. Not all debt, your worst debt. The one charging you 22%, 24%, 29%. Kill it like it insulted your mother. Every $100 you throw at a 24% APR card is like making a 24% return on your money. You won't get that in the stock market. You won't get that anywhere. Stage 1 rule, you're not behind. You're just in the stage where escape requires intensity, not balance. Stage 2, stability. You know you've entered stability the first time something breaks and you feel nothing. Your car makes a weird noise, you take it to the shop. They say, $650 for the repair. And instead of panic, instead of the mental math, instead of which bill can I push, you just say, okay, when can you have it done? That moment, that's stability. It's sleeping through the night without 3 a.m. money anxiety. It's not flinching when your card gets swiped. It's looking at your bank account out of curiosity instead of fear. Stability isn't wealth, it's breathing room. You've reached stability when you have 3 to 6 months of expenses saved in an accessible account, $10,000 to $25,000 for most people, depending on your burn rate. Your debt-to-income ratio is below 30%, ideally below 20%, excluding mortgage. You're maxing out any employer 401k match, that's free money you're not allowed to leave on the table. You have at least $500 to $1,000 a month that isn't spoken for, money that could go to investing, extra debt payoff, or building towards stage 3. This is where you stop bleeding, where the emergency fund isn't theoretical, it's real and boring and sitting there doing its job. Here's what nobody tells you about stability. It's a trap. Not because it's bad, it's wonderful. After the chaos of survival, stability feels like a warm bath. You can finally relax. You can finally breathe. And that's exactly why most people never leave. They get comfortable. The emergency fund is funded. The debts are manageable. They're saving some for retirement. They tell themselves, I'm doing fine. But fine is not free. Stability is financial survival. Abundance is financial freedom. And the distance between them isn't about discipline anymore. It's about a completely different set of moves. Meet Priya. Priya is 34, marketing manager, makes $87,000 a year. She did everything right. Paid off her credit cards, built an $18,000 emergency fund, contributes enough to her 401k to get the full match. On paper, she's successful. But here's what Priya realized at a dinner party last year when her friend mentioned she was taking 2 months off to travel. Priya couldn't do that. Not because of money exactly, she had savings, but because every dollar in her system was optimized for security, not for optionality. She had enough to survive a crisis. She didn't have enough to create possibility. That's when Priya realized she was stuck in stage 2, and being stuck somewhere comfortable is the most dangerous kind of stuck, because you can convince yourself you've already arrived. Escaping stability.
Escaping stability requires a mindset shift and a money shift. Mindset shift. Stop optimizing for not losing. Start optimizing for freedom. In survival, the goal was don't drown. In stability, the goal was stay afloat. In abundance, the goal becomes choose your direction. That requires risk, investment, building assets that work when you don't. Money shift. Once your emergency fund is full, stop hoarding cash. I know that sounds terrifying after survival, but here's the math. Cash sitting in a savings account earning 0.5% is losing money to inflation every year. It's a security blanket, not a wealth builder. After 6 months of expenses are secured, every extra dollar should be going to tax-advantaged retirement accounts, max the 401k, then a Roth IRA, $7,000 per year in 2024, a taxable brokerage account, index funds, not stock picking, we're building freedom, not gambling, income-generating assets, a rental property, a side business, digital products, anything that can eventually pay you while you sleep. Stage 2 rule. Security is the foundation, but if you never build on it, you just have a really stable floor you'll stand on forever.
Stage 3. Abundance. Abundance is when you work because you want to. Not because you have to, not because the bills require it, not because you'd lose your health insurance, but because the work is interesting or meaningful or fun, and if it ever stops being those things, you could walk away. Abundance is when time becomes your currency. It's Tuesday at 2 p.m. and you're at a coffee shop because you felt like it, not because you're unemployed, not because you're playing hooky, but because your money is working right now, even though you're not. It's giving generously without mental math. It's saying yes to the trip. It's saying no to the opportunity that pays well but costs your soul. Here's what abundance is not. It's not yachts. It's not private jets. It's not 1 million followers. Abundance is your basic expenses covered by money you don't have to actively earn. That's it. That's the whole game. The math that will change your life. It's called the 4% rule, and it comes from the Trinity study, research on retirement portfolios over 30-year periods. The idea is if you withdraw 4% of your invested assets per year, there's a very high probability your money lasts essentially forever. So here's the formula. Take your annual expenses and multiply by 25. That's your abundance number. Let me give you real examples. If you spend $40,000 a year, 40,000 times 25 equals $1 million invested. At 4% withdrawal, that's $40K per year without touching principal. If you spend $60,000 a year, 60,000 times 25 equals $1.5 million invested. But here's what nobody tells you. If you can get your expenses down to $30,000 a year, 30,000 times 25 equals $750,000. That's not an impossible number. That's not generational wealth. That's aggressive saving and investing for 10 to 15 years for someone making a decent income. And if you build income-producing assets that throw off cash, rental properties, a business that runs without you, dividend portfolios, royalty income, you might not need anywhere near $1 million. Partial abundance is real too. What if your investments covered just your rent, just your food, just your health insurance? Every expense you eliminate from your must-work-to-cover list is a piece of freedom you've purchased permanently. Society has lied to you about what financial freedom looks like. They've shown you billionaires on magazine covers, influencers on leased yachts, celebrities with more cars than they can drive. That's not freedom. That's performance. Real abundance? Real abundance is a 42-year-old former accountant named David I met at a library in Portugal. He saved aggressively for 12 years while living in a medium cost of living city. He invested almost 50% of his income. He drove used cars. He didn't deprive himself. He just didn't inflate his lifestyle every time his income grew. At 41, he hit $900,000 invested. His annual expenses were about $32,000. He did the math, and he left. Not to a mansion, to a small apartment in Lisbon where he spends his mornings reading, his afternoons walking, and his evenings cooking with friends. He told me something I'll never forget. I don't feel rich. I just feel free. And it turns out, free is way better than rich. The one truth about abundance. Here's the counterintuitive truth. The biggest accelerator to stage 3 is not earning more, it's wanting less. Not in a depriving way, not in a monk way, but really getting clear on what you actually want your daily life to feel like, and realizing that most of the expensive stuff you've been chasing doesn't even show up in that picture. You don't need to earn $500,000 a year to reach abundance. You need to close the gap between what you earn and what you need until your assets can cover the difference. Every dollar of lifestyle you don't inflate is a piece of freedom you've purchased permanently. Stage 3 rule: abundance isn't about having more, it's about needing your job less. Let me bring this full circle. At the beginning of this video, I told you there's a number in your bank account that determines which stage you're in. Now you know the stages. Survival, less than $2,000 saved, more than one crisis away from disaster. Stability, 3 to 6 months of expenses covered, breathing room established, but still trading time for money. Abundance, your basic needs covered by assets, not your hours. Time becomes yours again. So I have to ask you, which stage are you in right now? Not which stage you feel like you should be in, not which stage you're embarrassed to admit, not which stage looks best on Instagram. Which stage are you actually in? Your homework. And I'm making this stupidly simple because I know how easy it is to watch a video like this, feel inspired, and do absolutely nothing. Open your bank account right now. Yes, right now. Add up every dollar you have that's liquid and accessible, checking, savings, everything you could touch in an emergency. Write that number down. That's your starting point. That's your truth. That's the number you're going to change. Because here's what I believe about you. You didn't click on this video because you wanted to stay where you are. You clicked because some part of you knows you're capable of more, and you just needed someone to hand you the map. Now you have the map. The only question is whether you'll use it. Financial freedom isn't about the size of your bank account. It's about the size of the gap between your money and your fear.
If this helped, like and subscribe. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. I'll see you in the next one.